You may think you know Marvel as the upbeat, happy-go-lucky comic publisher between the big two. They have created some really bright, cheerful, and optimistic superhero characters over the years, and are known in general for their often brighter settings and colors. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has also painted them in a more family-friendly light, filled with lots of upbeat moments and laughs for the whole family. Well, as long as you're not counting how many people Groot has probably killed in the Guardians of the Galaxy films, because that's definitely happened. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. Today we're going to be looking at the other side of the coin and taking to the comics to relive some of the most savage and cruel stories from Marvel Comics as we count down the top 10 most brutal moments in Marvel history. If you love learning about and celebrating Marvel Comics and their history, be sure to click over here to check out our Marvel playlist. And stick around to the end of this list where I will have some bonus content coming your way. Alright, now let's get counting. Number 10. Venom's deadly French kiss. Venom is already known for being a brutal and twisted character in general, especially when he acts as a villain, yet he's still one of the most popular characters around, no matter his alignment. In 2003's Venom in issue 11, we saw him take on the Thing from the Fantastic Four, and use a weird talent we didn't really need to know that he had. Venom is attempting to drag away Spider-Man's unconscious body when the Thing bursts through a wall, aiming to prevent him from doing so by tackling him. Venom responds by telling the Thing it's blobberin' time and shoots out his tongue, essentially giving the Thing an immobilizing and disturbingly painful looking French kiss. Fortunately, Human Torch comes in on the next page to put a stop to Venom, but this graphic image won't be as easily burned away. In fact, just the opposite. Be burned into your mind. The cover of this issue says it all, featuring just Venom's long and slimy looking tongue. Ew. Number 9. Loki and Thor brutalize the Fantastic Four. This one came to us from a what if story where we saw both Loki and Thor team up to take on Marvel's first family, the Fantastic Four. During this fight, we got a brutal moment where Ben Grimm as the Thing tries to shout out his famous catchphrase while battling Thor. It's clobberin' time! But before he can get that final word out, time, Thor smashes his jaw off with his hammer. Youch. Meanwhile, Invisible Woman Sue Storm is also in trouble. She is attempting to protect herself using a force field she created, but Loki reverses the polarity of her powers, so all the energy she is projecting outward instead folds in on her, causing her to be crushed beneath its weight and looking almost skeletal as a result in one panel. She's like, I'm dying. Number 8. Gamora kills Eros. In a surprising turn of events, Gamora was forced to take the life of her uncle Star Fox following the revelation that the Black Order would be using him and not Gamora, as he had previously thought, to bring Thanos back to life. Much to the dismay of Star-Lord, Gamora did not hesitate to kill her uncle Eros, Thanos' brother, though at least she did seem sorry to have to do it. But if it meant preventing Thanos' return, well, then she was more willing to do the deed, stabbing Star Fox right through the chest with her sword. Number 7. Kitty is forced to kill Wolverine. Kitty's kills can be pretty gruesome when they happen because of her phasing powers. In this story, Kitty was forced to kill Wolverine when he couldn't be saved from being used as Hydra's brainwashed agent in What If Wolverine Enemy of the State. Wolverine has been teleporting in, assassinating tons of Hydra's opponents, aka superheroes, and teleporting out. A team is then pulled together to finally take him down, and one of that team's members, Kitty, is one of the few left at the end. She tries to reason with Wolverine, but when that fails is forced to phase her arm through his head, turning it solid just before Wolverine slices it off. Wolverine is dead, Kitty's without an arm, and likely every reader was either left with a shocked look on their face or tears in their eyes, or both. Number 6. She-Hulk tears Vision in half. This was during one of the times in Marvel history where Scarlet Witch basically went crazy, believing the whole world to be against her and taking it out on them. During the Avenger Disassembled storyline, she was blaming the Avengers for the loss of her children, which she had altered reality to create, as, you know, Vision, her husband, was not actually capable as an artificial life form of fathering children. Wanda decided to attack the Avengers, but indirectly. She appeared to send an altered Vision to do so instead. Her influence also caused She-Hulk to go into an uncontrollable rage. When this happened, She-Hulk saw Vision as the main threat and so ripped him in half. Of course, Vision would later return. This definitely wasn't the end for him, and the two would even reconcile. But just seeing this happen in the pages of a comic was still pretty intense. Anytime someone gets ripped in half, it's pretty intense. Number 5. Hulk gets indigestion. In the alternate timeline that belongs to Old Man Logan, we witness a potential future where Logan lives on land with his wife and 2 children that is owned by the Hulk gang. The Hulk gang are multiple generations of Hulk's inbred family. Bruce himself is still alive and demands doubled rent from the Logans. Old Man Logan sets out to collect this rent before the due date when his family is threatened, but unfortunately does not make it back in time, despite him actually arriving early in regards to their originally agreed upon date. Logan finds his family has already been killed in his absence and sets out hell-bent on revenge. Unfortunately, Logan doesn't seem to be much of a match for Hulk, who devours him. Of course, Logan may have actually been counting on that happening. While Hulk's body attempts to digest him, Logan pops his claws and cuts his way out of Hulk's stomach. We've seen Wolverine attempt this move a couple of times in the comics, but it doesn't get any less gruesome anytime he does it, especially with Steve McNiven on pencils. Number 4. Nova brutally disembowels Annihilus. This has got to be one of the most violent kills we've seen in the pages of a Marvel comic. During Annihilation in issue 6, we saw Nova, aka Richard Rider, take on Annihilus and succeed in defeating him. But he didn't just defeat him, he disemboweled him. And not in a conventional way either, but by reaching down his throat. That's right, the brutal and violent end happened by Nova punching down into Annihilus's throat, so far in fact that he somehow reached his organs. I don't know how that scientifically works, but there you go. And he pulled specifically what appeared to be his intestines out through his mouth. Quite intense. I don't think you can actually do that to someone, but I'm not gonna ask if it's possible because I don't want to know. Number 3. Wolverine kills everyone. Not intentionally though. In this instance, he was tricked. During Mark Millar's Old Man Logan limited series, it was revealed that Mysterio tricked Wolverine into killing nearly everyone in the X-Mansion. The staff, the students, his fellow colleagues, the X-Men. There were even more deaths as the supervillains took over the world, leaving us with the dystopian future that we see in this series, but by far the thought of Wolverine slicing up everyone that he ever considered to be close enough to consider family, believing they were intruders and that he was protecting his own fellow mutants in doing so, is shocking. Also just him holding Jubilee, I was like, no! Number 2. Black Panther becomes zombie food. In the Marvel Zombies world, Black Panther was one of the sole survivors when the zombies first attacked and turned most of his friends into zombified versions of themselves. One such former friend, Hank Pym, actually just managed to trick T'Challa into coming with him. Or, well, he almost did. He just almost. So close. Either way, Hank managed to incapacitate T'Challa, having already begun to change himself. He used Black Panther, his friend, as a food source, keeping him locked away and alive, sawing off pieces of him and slowly devouring him. Fortunately, Black Panther would escape and even become the leader of a land of survivors, although he would eventually turn into a zombie himself much later on. But that's a story for another time. Number 1. Pop goes Doctor Strange. Or his head. Ew. For this gory moment, we head to Ultimatum. I know, I'm sorry, but sometimes we gotta go back there. Now in Ultimatum, Doctor Strange took on an enemy that we've seen him battle multiple times before in the comics, Dormammu, and usually win against Dormammu even, but not this time. This time it was Dormammu who reigned victorious after using Doctor Strange's cape to strangle him to death by wrapping tightly around him. So tight in fact that Strange's head exploded. There are a lot of cons for wearing capes in a fight in terms of practicality, I know this, but this has got to be one of the most horrific instances of one that I've ever seen in the comics. Thank you so much for watching, Nerd Squad. What are some of your favorite, most brutal moments? Are there any that we've missed that you'd love to see mentioned in a part 2? Are there any stories you had to take a break from because their events were just so brutal? Let us know in the comments below. And speaking of comments, it's time to turn to some comments from one of our latest videos, Top 10 Worst Supervillain Parents. Sunstar comments, murdering half their planet before adopting the children of Thanos and training them to torture. Yeah, Thanos has not been a great dad, both in the comics or in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, though at least he cares for his children, which is more than you could say about some of the other parents on that list. Maybe we will see him on a part 2. Wasim Chamak writes, Ego from Marvel is the worst. He killed a lot of his children. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that is completely true. Ego from the MCU would make a great addition to that list. Although in the comics, I don't think he's that bad of a father. He did, however, at one point lose his daughter, Ila, the living moon, but I don't know if that makes him a bad parent. I don't think that was intentional. And that's all the time we have for comments today. Be sure to comment below for a chance to have your thoughts and feelings shouted out in a future video. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight, reminding you to stay nerdy, YouTube.